Hi, welcome back to the JAFFA Wire podcast on Bold Like a Leopard. And today we're going to depart from the usual format. And the big question I want to talk about right now is, what do people fight for? We're talking about the Middle East and the violence and, of course, to be more precise, Hamas's attack on Israel, Israel's strikes of Gaza and of Hamas targets, and what is the point of it all? What's the point of either of these sides? Is there a big difference? And I would contend that there is. Okay? You're free to believe whatever you want, and you're also free not to care. A lot of people are saying, well, this is a moral fight that everyone must have total clarity on. You have to pick a side. I don't think so. I think people have the right to see what's important in their eyes and what's not. If you feel, like other people I know feel, that there are things happening here in the U.S. that are bigger problems, especially for you, I can't tell you what to find more important. Only you can. I lost last week. I didn't really feel the loss as much as other people do, but I'm definitely thinking about it. My cousin lost his daughter, who was a beautiful child when I knew her, and I haven't seen her for 14 years, and I'll never see her again. She was killed in a Qassam rocket attack, and she was one of the most outgoing, engaging kids you'll ever meet. Obviously, after 14 years, no longer a kid anymore. She grew up to be a lady. She went to the military, got out of the military, was supposed to be getting engaged, according to her boyfriend, at the wedding. And I listened to and thought about the words of not only him, but her parents and her, and other people that knew her. And I feel like this is a life lost, that is another world that has been destroyed. And that's really the way that I think we should approach war and death. And this is the reason people want peace. But there's not going to be peace. Why? Because there are people with a totally different attitude. For them, war isn't about saving lives. It isn't about preserving humanity and fighting for a better future for themselves and for their children. For a lot of these people, okay, the people who attacked on October 7th and committed the horrific acts that they did, because it wasn't just attacking, it wasn't just shooting people and assaulting soldiers and even assaulting civilians. It was reveling in it and glorifying in it and saying things as if the acts of debasement that they committed against other people, mutilating people and burning them alive and things like that, that was to them a good part. It was something good. It was something to be praised. I've heard people who have said that this is great, that one of the most ridiculous ones that I've heard was from the University of Wisconsin at Madison. This is a place where people believe in tolerance, and they'll say they believe in tolerance. They believe in, all of these movements of progressivism and fighting for human dignity and against bigotry and all those things. And yet there was a chant that went up over there, and some people maybe this was misheard. So some people say that they were saying glory to the murders. And then the response was, well, we weren't saying glory to the murders. We were saying glory to the martyrs, meaning the people who committed the murders. So the question, there's a distinction without a difference. Either you're praising the act or you're praising the people who committed the act for doing it. And that's the way I think you can differentiate it between them. Because I'm not going to say it never happens, but in Israeli society and in most of the West, you don't see this wholesale worship of death, destruction, and the committing of violent acts in the name of a cause, right? We generally hope to have our children raised to live in a society where those things are deemed to be out of the question, right? I'm not saying that there's not exceptions. I'm not saying that video games, for example, are not violent, or that there's children who get way too much into horror movies or Halloween. Or I'm sure you might have an example that you could put into the comment section, and you can say no, with the West or America, or if you want to say Israel, or if you want to say Jews, they glorify in it. But it's not true, because as a whole, I would say we believe in the societies that I'm talking about. As a general rule, we don't look at murder, we don't look at death and destruction as laudable things. We don't say people should be praised for shooting women and children and burning them alive, kidnapping old people. All of those things are generally considered, okay? I'm not, so I don't want to make generalizations, but generally they're considered bad in Israel, and they're also generally considered bad in America and in Europe. But in parts of the Muslim world, society has elevated them if they're done for the right cause, right? And that's the big problem here, because there's a lot of quotes that get thrown around. One of the big ones is that if Palestinians learn to love their children as much as, or if they learn to love their children as much as they hate Jewish children, then there would be no war. Well, I'm sorry to say, okay, that some cliches do have a certain trueness to them, okay? Because we did lose a child in our extended family here. My dad's actually more depressed over this than I remember him being over his own parents passing away. Why? Because they were much, much, much older. They were in their 80s, and I think my grandpa died when he was probably 92 or 93. And we certainly weren't happy when elderly people passed away. But when you lose people that have potential, they have this future that could be ahead of them. They have this and all the talent that they had. We don't consider that to be something good at all. Even if they're dying in the service of a higher cause, we consider it to be totally wrong to celebrate their death and to say, well, their martyrdom is this great thing. And when I think about Palestinian society, right, all I can think about is how what type of expectation do these children have if they live, right? If they live forever, or if they live beyond this period of time when they're told, oh, you could be this person who strikes a blow to destroy this Zionist interloper or whatever. Okay, so let's say that they die and nothing gets done, right? Let's say that they die in the act. And I used to see, because I've been open and honest about it. I served in the Israeli military as I was obligated to under law. And there would be juveniles who would be caught passing explosive belts through the checkpoint. There would be juveniles caught passing smaller contraband through, like knives or other weaponry, and nobody really addresses that question. What happens to those people? Well, you've basically wasted the whole life of another person. People who are older than them are sending them to a possible death or a lifetime in prison, or wasting their, they waste their entire lives away in the name of a so-called higher cause. And that's what I think is a big differential in this. This past week, actually yesterday, so I'm recording this on a Sunday. On Saturday, we read the portion in the Torah, the book of Genesis, dealing with Noah and the flood. And when I think about it, it has a dual meaning to it, because the world had become so corrupt that God had decided that corruption had to be eliminated. And he gave many, many years before this would happen. But he told the one person who was righteous that he could save himself by building an ark and putting every member of his family there and bringing 2 of every animal into it, and they would be saved and the rest of the world would be gone. And this was a sign, yes, that God destroyed things that he considered corrupt, but he kept what he thought was precious. He kept what was more important. Wasn't destroying what was bad, but preserving what was in his mind good. And I'm not telling you what is good and what is bad, but if your entire purpose is to destroy, then you are the corruption, right? God's purpose in bringing the flood wasn't to destroy, it was to cleanse and to bring about a better tomorrow. And it's pretty grim stuff. It's not something that we would consider appropriate for our lives today. It's definitely something that I wouldn't relish seeing. That's why we don't look at the flood as something positive. We look at it as destruction, horrible. It's horrible what people had to go through. If you believe in the Bible, that people basically, a society was destroyed in one fell swoop. And for 40 days and 40 nights, the surviving remnant of humanity was living on an ark with every animal in the world. If you believe in this, then what was the more important part? Destroying the corrupt people or saving the people that could be saved, that were supposedly pure? It's a very difficult moral argument to talk about if you believe in it. And I think some people, if they examine it, people who have become accustomed to progressive views of the world, I don't think that they can actually handle that conversation. They can't really fathom that God would warrant destruction of something terrible like what happened in during the flood in order to preserve something small and still uncorrupted. But that's what we believe did happen. If you believe in the Bible, doesn't mean that we want it to happen. Doesn't mean that we want people to suffer. And that's really the big problem. It's that, we think about things like this, like how horrible must it have been for people to die that way in a flood. So we wouldn't wish it upon anyone. We don't wish for people to undergo misfortune. And obviously people do say things that I wish this would happen to someone else or something like that. But we don't, it's considered extreme for you to wish death upon others, to wish suffering upon others. That's a feature, I think, of our society that we've built in, because we believe that preserving life is more important than visiting death and destruction on others. But I don't think that that's common to humanity. I think that there are societies where, generally speaking, okay, yes, I'm not saying that every single Palestinian believes this, and there's Palestinians that I've worked with, there's Palestinians I went to school with that I think are certainly I've nothing to complain about them, and I think they're getting colored in a bad light because of the actions and statements of other people. But I think in general, their society does believe in a philosophy that is meant to cause suffering and visit death upon others. And that's what I think is really the root of this conflict. It's not really about the land and about scripture and all of that. It is about the philosophy of the people that are fighting it. One side wants there to be a tomorrow that's better for their children. We don't, like, I can speak from personal experience, and like I said, there are exceptions. There are people who are Jewish that believe terrible things, say terrible things, do terrible things, and I think are a terrible example for the world. But I would say that I've never seen the type of curriculum where you actually dress people up in little terrorist outfits with sometimes fake weapons, sometimes real weapons, and teach them to hate the other people and hope to murder them one day. That's something I haven't seen. Maybe one day I will see it. I hope never to see it. I just came from the toy store to get some gifts for one of my nephews for his birthday. And we tried to get him gifts that are about building his intelligence or building stuff. We don't try to get him gifts that are meant to talk about hurting other people and causing destruction. And I hope that this doesn't come off as condescending, because really, I would wish better futures on everyone if possible. I just don't think it's going to happen, unfortunately. That's about it. Please like, share, and subscribe and all the usual stuff. Have a great day.